morning, my dear participants. I welcome you all on to the third day of this 7 days online workshop in Applied Life Sciences, which is organized by the Department of Microbiology and Zoology. At the outset, on behalf of our administrative staff, especially myself, Dr. M. Madhavi and Dr. Chand Pasha, organizing secretaries and conveners of this conference, welcome you all to this wonderful session. Today we have a very wonderful speaker, Dr. Madhu Mohan, who is Scientist E, Head Research and Development, NIMS Hospital, Hyderabad, Telangana State. Dr. Madhu Mohan completed his graduation in biochemistry in 1999 in SK University in India. During 2003 and 5, he has completed his post-graduation in microbiology in Osmania University. In 2005, he worked as a research assistant in Center for DNA, Fingerprinting and Diagnostics on molecular genetic analysis of hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. In 2006, he was awarded a scientist fellowship from Maastricht Medical University Hospital, Netherlands. In 2007, he got STW Dutch PhD fellowship, and between 2007 and 11, he worked as PhD researcher at Toxicogenomics Group. In 2011, Sir joined as research scientist in RIK ILT, Wayne University. He also worked as postdoctoral fellow in the Center for Molecular Medicine, Norway, and Oslo Cancer Hospital on breast cancer research. He worked on ER and HER2 breast cancer, that is the drug responses and resistances, and cross ER HER2 tox also. Dr. Madhu Mohan currently working as head R&D in NIMS Hospital, Hyderabad. Sir is expert in cancer genomics, proteomics, 3D cancer models, and gene editing. He is in charge for COVID-19 labs and Telangana COVID-19 task force member. He was involved in characterization of immunotherapy drugs developed by Boehringer, Germany. Dr. Madhu Mohan is known for his translational research in oncology. Dr. Madhu Mohan has been acquiring along the years in the preparation of research project proposal at United States of America, European and national ICMR, DST and DBT, so on. He has 3 international grants and 5 national grants. He has been integrating genomics, gene editing, technologies in the stem cells and cancer cells as a way to define innovative strategies to improve the autologous transplantation functionality of the stem cells. He is recipient of several national and international awards. I welcome you, sir. Thank you for accepting our invitation. Now I hand over the session to Dr. Madhu Mohan.
Thank you for your introduction, ma'am. Good morning, everyone. I'm Dr. Madhu, currently working as a scientist E in NIMS Hospital. And thanks for giving this opportunity today to give some brief about virology and also what's happening currently in COVID-19 detection methods and also culture methods and especially about biosafety levels. I think this is the right time to understand about the different risk categories of viruses and also different types of biosafety levels, so that people can easily imagine what's happening in the current scenario. Okay, I think today I'm going to Yeah, hope you all can see my presentation. Yeah. So today's topic is, as convener decided, like biosafety levels for virus research, and I will also focus on virus cultivation methods, and next COVID-19 detection methods, like different types of detection methods, and finally I end up with the RT-PCR diagnosis of COVID-19. Let's start with the first one. Yeah. So as you all know, viruses are different types based on their infection, like zoonotic virus and plant virus, and also bacteriophages. And depending on the genome, also they have categorized into like RNA viruses and DNA viruses. In RNA virus, we have a single-strand RNA and also double-strand RNA. Especially coming to the coronavirus, is a single-stranded positive RNA virus. I would not go very detailed, but I'm just giving there are different types of virus depending on their infection structure and also the genome background. Yeah. Yes. So before I start with the biosafety levels, first one should understand the classification of risk. So there we have four types of groups: risk one, group one to group four. Based on these levels only, the biosafety level labs have been designed and characterized. If you take the left window, box one, risk group is uh, no or low individual risk and no community risk. This falls in the group one, means they're not very infectious and not very harmful to the yeah, persons. For example, like a adenovirus virus. This virus normally we use for transfection and also for gene editing experiments. Coming to the risk group 2 is a moderate individual risk, and it also have a low community risk. Means the risk is very low, especially when you take the example like herpes virus. It's very common when we have any inflammation, any I would call in our body, we get this herpes infection. You all know this. So the third one is risk group 3, high individual risk, and it also has a community risk but low level. For example, let's take coronavirus. This is characterized as a biosafety level 2 or 3. So it has a high risk. When you see that example, HIV, hepatitis B, etc. And coming to the risk group 4, it's a high individual risk because it leads to mortality, like very high mortality, and also it has a high community risk. So example, it falls like Ebola virus and smallpox, etc. So as I said before, depending on the risk groups, subgroups, we have designing this biosafety lab, not we, but WHO and virology associations. So yeah, biosafety level 1 is a basic lab where it has a good microbiological techniques. And the biosafety level 2 is basically you have a very good microbiological techniques along with the special clothing, like we call the PPE, okay, personal protection equipment. And also we should have a biohazard science and waste management, etc. Coming to the biosafety level 3, in addition to the level 2, we should have a special clothing and especially controlled access. Means we call this as a man and metal movement. How metal has to go inside and also how man has to enter. I mean, person has to enter. So then the additional factor is we call negative pressure, differential negative pressure, which is very important. To avoid to stop these infections in the lab, we have a special setup. Normally when you have a corridor, outside corridor and inside the lab, the differential pressure should be minimum 20, 25. So for example, you have outside minus 10 negative pressure, inside it should be around 40. So then only this lab is eligible for working with the biosafety level 3 pathogens like COVID-19. So this we create by using air handling units. Air handling units basically, this equipment will clean the air around 20 to 50 times per hour. Means it always cleans the air in the lab. And also we maintain by using the some instrument, we maintain the negative pressure so that if something spills on the floor, also it will go very with high speed, it will go up. And then we have a HEPA filters. HEPA filters will clean this virus. It will not allow to go into the environment. So this is very important while working with the biosafety level 3 pathogens. The other one is we always maintain the biosafety cabinets. You all microbiologists know, like biosafety cabinet type 2A, 2B, we call as a P3 also. So some biosafety cabinets has a 30% exhaust, and the one which I said P3, biosafety level 2B, is a 100% exhaust. I'll show you in my next slide. Yeah, as I said before, these factors are very important: differential negative pressure and man and metal movement, and it should have 100% exhaust, so that virus will not inside the lab. And anteroom is we call as for example, before you enter into the lab, place of lab, we should have two doors so that we can control the airflow. So it's very automatic. Once the one door is open, the other door is closed, so that you are not allowing the flow inside the lab. So that we have two doors, and then the room is called anteroom, so that it basically minimize the contamination. And the other side, right side, I gave the important parameters as I explained before. Airflow is very important, ventilation, HEPA filters, and exhaust. So depending on the risk level and biosafety level is decided, like 3 and 4 is very important. And as I said, it has an air lock, it's automatic lock, and also double door entry. So as I said, one door is closed while other door is open, so that we can minimize the airflow. And then effluent treatment. And the other one is we call the mist shower. I think here I have not shown. Yes, anteroom with shower. Mist shower is once you finish the work in the BSL lab, while coming out, we have a shower. I can show in my videos. I made one lab recently. I can show you. So these are all very important for our personal protection while working in the lab. And after that, the waste will be autoclaved, and then we'll send to biohazardous. And maybe you can ask the difference between biosafety level 3 and 4. The main difference is negative pressure is same. We should have at least a differential pressure of minus 30 Pascal. But the biggest difference is while working in the BSL 4 lab, you should have two people. If something happens with one, I think others should be watching the other person. So you always have to work two people in the BSL 4 lab, unlike BSL 2 and BSL 3. And the difference is, yeah, that is very important. Rest is almost same. Yeah. So this is the recent lab which I developed with the DRDO, and it's located in ESIC hospital. So in order to make this BSL 3 level lab, it takes you almost 6 to 7 months, and it's very expensive affair. And during this pandemic, we have to rush, like we have to do things very fast. So we can't spare 6-7 months for making this lab. So left side, you can see the lab how we made. So it has, the other one difference is between BSL 3 and BSL 4 is glove cabinets. Like while working, you have to put the hands inside and everything will be cabinet. So that is the biggest difference between BSL 3 and BSL 4. And this lab is mobile actually. I made it in containers. Right side, the factors like waste management, laboratory management, safety procedures, emergency management. These are very important, like donning and doffing. And this I will explain one by one so that you can imagine that while working, how you should be care of that, okay? So this is how the lab look like. It has everything inside. From entering, while entering, you have to remove your street cloths and you have to wear the special PPE. I'll explain coming slide. So the downstairs, this is a design which I made for this lab. So I'm trying to, we have two containers like this. The one container is I made with BSL 3 level, which has a negative pressure of above minus 30. So basically it has, see here, it has a P3 cabinet. You can see here the number 1, the cabinet right side. I have 1 and 2. The 1 is very important, which has 100% exhaust inside. So where we can culture the virus, I mean, we can basically infect the animal cell lines like Vero cell lines and HEC239 cell lines, and you can do a lot of drug discovery and other studies. But for screening purpose, this lab is not required. Actually, for screening, we have, I'm facing a problem here. Can anybody help me?
Yes, tell me, sir.
Yeah, I think while moving, I have problem like this. I can now it's okay. So
Can use cursor, sir.
yeah, I think I'm not able to. Yeah, now I can do it. Can I put like this? Maybe it's
Yeah, no problem.
yeah, because it's not giving me. Yeah. So hope you all can see here. This blue color is man moment. How we enter in this lab? This is a change room, and then we have a donning and doffing area. So donning means basically you remove the street cloth and you wear the special PPE, and you have a crossover bench like this. Yes, this is a crossover bench, the number one. So you are crossing from dirty area to the clean area. Okay. So this is mandatory, and you wear the special shoe here, which is located in the racks. So you put your street cloths here, and after entering, this is the donning, and then once you take the special suit and you enter into the lab. I am going to show videos soon, but yeah. So coming back. So after changing, you enter in the BSL3 lab here, and you finish your work, and then you come back and you take a shower. There's a mist shower, and there's a process so that you can go back. So basically, it's a unidirectional actually. So you have to enter and you have to finish and you have to go back like this. And adjacent, we have another container which is a BSL2 level lab. So once I inactivate the virus, after growing and all, I can, by using dynamic pass box, I am sending this material to the BSL2 lab. This is BSL2, so that we can do all functional studies like RNA and DNA and protein studies. So this is BSL3 level lab where you completely, it's a highly controlled, and you have a CC camera, you have a negative pressure measuring machines, and even each cabinet also has everything. It's automated. If something is going on, it will alarm you. So once you finish your cultivation and virus culture, you by this pass box, you send the material inside so that it's highly controlled. So yeah, and this part is completely AHUs and power supply, everything. So this is a mobile lab which we designed recently, and basically this lab is meant for doing a research with live viruses, the pseudo viruses. Yeah. So this is a lab which is the first of its kind. We inaugurated in almost I think April, and it is running now. Maybe if you have any projects, you can approach and you can also use this lab. Yes. Yeah, I think I'll show you a video maybe how people will work in the BSL3 lab. We used to work in Europe. Maybe you can get a feeling that.
Sir, increase the volume, sir. Sir, your volume is off, sir.
Yes, as I said, the person has entered the lab, and now you can see how they are going to change the. So they said the dressing PPE is very important to protect yourself. Yeah, and I'll just tell you some relevant topic now. So most of the institutes and labs are applying, because since I'm a task force member, we'll see that the labs are suitable to run the COVID-19 testing part. So normally ISMA is proposed BSL2 level is enough, but now we are proposing BSL3 level, because initially we didn't expect that it will cause so much damage. Now we are saying that at least BSL3 lab is very important to work with this COVID-19. So, and I'm just showing this map for your information, because maybe some of you guys also already known, but we are running in at least Telangana state. So this is a design. Like I said, the person will enter into the entrance, and then we have a PPE donning area. We change the dresses here, and then we enter the corridor. And this room, it has a pass box, so that whatever samples like VTMs are coming, we will collect here samples for further processing. So it's everything connected through the pass box. So after sample receives here, we give the number, special coding, and then we'll send for the aliquoting. Like we have to aliquot the sample VTM, and then we'll go for the RNA isolation by using the bead method or enzymatic method. And after RNA isolation, we sending for the amplification. So it means it's a complete flow. It has to be in a flow. So after the RT-PCR, we have a data analysis room, and then again the PP doffing area, they remove the dress and they take a shower and they come out. So this is very controlled manpower, and this is sample material movement. So this lab is completely away from the swab collection. Swab collection is very far, so it is done by a doctor, clinician, and this is completely done by a scientist. So I'm just showing how we are doing in our lab. As I said, the swab collection will be done by two routes. One is nasal and one is oral. So after collection, the sample will be put in a viral transport medium, and that will come to our lab. And aliquoting means, yeah, we just need a 140 microliters of the sample. Rest we will store it in a -80 for a future purpose. If something goes wrong, we have to take the sample again. After aliquoting, we add the 560 microliters of the ABL buffer. It's a lysis buffer basically to lyse the viruses. After lysis, I mean after 10 minutes of lysis, we transfer these whole samples to the RNA isolation room. It means we have a different rooms here. We are not doing everything in one room. So first, aliquoting will be done in one separate room, and then it move to RNA isolation. This is how I was doing the RNA isolation, completely packed with the PPE. And after RNA isolation, we'll go for the RT-PCR room. Here we have a one laminar flow where you can make your master mix, and you make a plating. And after that, you put a regular RT-PCR, and then we'll get a result. So this is what's happening currently in the COVID-19 labs. But everything is controlled with negative pressure, and also all biosectoral measurements. Yeah, next I'll move to the